Hello there, and welcome to World Plone Day. I hope you're enjoying your Thursday. There are a lot of good plone talks out there today. World Plone Day is one of my favorite days of the year because you can learn so much in just a short amount of time. It really is something, so be sure to check out some of those other talks. I'm here today to talk to you about baseball, farming, and smart homes. Three things that normally don't go together with Plone, but now they can, thanks to Volto, the new React.js front end in Plone 6. And I would like to show you what happens when Volto meets third-party APIs. A little bit about myself first. My name is Brian Davis. I've been working with Plone since version 0.98, which is over 20 years ago, so quite a long time now. I'm currently serving a term on the Plone Foundation Board of Directors. I'm also part of the Plone marketing team as well as the Plone steering circle. And my most recent journey into Plone started back in 2021 with the release of Plone 6. I was excited to try out some of the new features, and the Plone that I had come to know and love had turned into the back end, and there was a new front end that I had never worked with before. So I was eager to dive right in and get my feet wet and get started. And that's what I did. So I built a couple of Plone themes. I started working with the training repository, which I then forked into an Ansible implementation of the training repository. And then I started using Cookie Cutter. It was originally called Cookie Cutter Plone Starter. It's now called Cookie Plone. And I was super excited about this because this gives you a Docker project for which to deploy your Plone sites. So I got into learning GitHub Action workflows and fine-tuning my server cluster, and I could clearly see that Volto was going to be a big difference maker in a lot of my work, so I was very excited about it. What I'd like to talk to you today is about how to use Volto to interact with other systems. A lot of the services and softwares and products you use nowadays have some sort of API. It's kind of been opened up a world of possibilities for ways that you can interact with various systems, and Volto has that capability. So what we'll do is we'll walk through a couple repositories today: Volto Baseball, Volto Home Assistant, and Volto Farm OS. And hopefully by the time we're done, you will be able to see how easy it is to make API calls and to interact with these other systems, and how easy it is for a JavaScript developer to come into the Plone world and feel very much at home. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Here are a few websites that I run that are made up of various Plone add-ons, Volto add-ons, and generally you have your Docker project, which is kind of like your old policy product in previous versions of Plone. You have a theme, which provides the look and feel to the site, and then you have some kind of application that you want to make API calls or you want to do some kind of other action with. So these are the repositories that build my websites, and I'll just give you a little look here to see how that looks kind of as infrastructure. And ultimately with this, with Cookie Cutter and with different things like that, you can build what's called code as infrastructure. So a lot of the automatic deployments and things like that are already built into the system. You can see here that I'm the happy smiley face at the top, and by simply coding on a local Raspberry Pi, pushing it to GitHub, that action then sends it to my proxy server, which then can deploy it to my other VMs. So yeah, you can kind of see how a lot of that works. What we're going to focus on today here is the actual API sources down here at the bottom, and we will show how you're able to link that back to your Plone and Volto deployments. So yeah, so a lot of these repositories, if you want to check them out later, you can find them here at my GitHub page, github/Foston. And the first site we are going to look at is called Happy Baseball. So Happy Baseball is actually the name of a fantasy baseball league I've been running for me and my friends for over 20 years. We have quite a history and a lot of archives and stuff like this. So the website gives us a place to house some of that communication. And I wanted to add some new features to it that would make it a little bit more useful and display some more data. So, so the first thing we'll look at here is the scoreboard. Okay, so you can see here we are displaying the current standings of the American League and National League teams for baseball. We also have a block here that shows today's games. You can see that home team, away team, score, start time, game status, and all of this data is rendered within the browser. So one of the nice features of this is that you don't need any extra storage. There's no extra database requirements or anything like that because it is rendered in the client browser. Once it's rendered, it stops making the API call, and then that information is available the next time somebody comes to your site and makes a new refresh of the page or a new load of the page. So, yeah, let's take a look at how some of this works. Volto Baseball is an add-on that I built, and if you would like some more information on building Volto add-ons, be sure to check out the Plone documentation and the Volto documentation on that. What we have in here is we have various blocks that we are adding to our site. Okay, so career stats, current standings, some different things. So let's go back and take a look at this page here, and we'll see what blocks exist on the site. Okay, there's a current standings block and a today's games block, and that makes sense. You can also add other blocks to the site here by clicking the plus and going down to your various block choices. But this page here shows the current standings and today's games. So how does that work? So we'll take a look at current standings. And what we will see here is that we are importing Axios from Axios. What that enables us to do is to make Axios GET requests. Okay, and then we are accessing a URL here available at mlb.com. And I will show you what that URL looks like here. Okay, so you can see the American League East, Toronto Blue Jays. They've won 4 games in a row, pretty good for Toronto. Okay, and there's a lot of data here that you can pull in. You can see various stuff. And a good way to test some of these is by using Postman. You can also use console log on the command line, or you can use the developer tools React plugin, which will also show you that kind of stuff. So, so what we're doing here is we're calling this here, and then we are using useState and useEffect. Now what this does is normally when we pull this data in, it is a one-time call, but useState and useEffect allows that information to be always accessible, so that if it changes states, for example, if the Detroit Tigers were to score another run here and change the score from 8 to 4, it would show in here the difference in the score. And when this is updated, we would want this page to automatically update. So that's what useState and useEffect does. Once we get the response here, we can return it, and we can call different items from that object that is found in the JSON API. We can say if the league ID is 103, we can say give us the team name, the wins, the losses, the percentage, games back, or the current streak. Okay, and that provides the information that we see here. Okay, and same way with the today's games. We are making another Axios GET call to a different URL. And we are pulling in team name, team score, game time, and status. Okay. So it's that easy. You can kind of access any API kind of the same way. What we're doing here is accessing a public API, but you can also access private APIs, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. But yeah, pretty cool. Another thing I added in here was player cards, and this is something that I've actually been wanting to do for over 20 years because I always thought Plone would be a good software to build baseball cards in. So having never done that in my youth, I took this opportunity to use this as a project to learn and practice on as a hobby project. And what I was able to build was player cards. So let's take a look at one of these and we'll see what it looks like. And we'll pick Joe Adele here. Okay. And you can see with Joe Adele that he is an outfielder. He's age 25. You can see his height and weight, whether he's a righty or a lefty, when he was born, when he debuted, and you can see all of his various hitting stats. So we're pulling that information from a page here. Okay. You can see full name, Joe Adele from the Los Angeles Angels. And here we're looking at the 2021 stats where you can see he had 4 home runs. But if we wanted to look at last year's stats, we can see that he had 20 home runs. Okay. So if we look here, 2021, 4 home runs. Last year, 20 home runs. So that's how we make the player cards. Pretty cool. Now I mentioned that nothing here is stored in Plone. The one thing that is actually stored in Plone here is the player card pages itself. So I built this add-on called Plone Baseball, and while this doesn't store any of the data that's in the that's pulled from the API, what this allows me to do is to create those player pages a little bit more automatically. So we'll look at here. We can see that we have default blocks, player info, season stats, career stats. Okay. And we can also see that we are creating via Plone's REST API a document that we are naming player card. And then from that, we're actually going to make another API call that pulls in, right there, that pulls in the list of players for the 2025 season. So what this does is this creates each of these different pages in the site, CJ Abrams or Brian Abreu. This will create these pages automatically with these blocks, the player info block, the single season stats, and the career stats already loaded up. And there's actually also an upgrade path in here that allows me to keep the same UIDs from year to year in my Plone site. So I'm able to move out inactive players and reuse the pages for players that are still active. So yeah, that's how that works. I was pretty happy with getting to learn some of that. So then, like I said, my next logical step was, okay, this is a public database. How do I access a private database? And the first thing that I wanted to give a try with was Home Assistant. So Home Assistant, if you haven't used it, is a smart home application that you can run locally on a Raspberry Pi. You can also run it through their cloud SaaS service as well. But this allows simple things like turning the lights on and off, what is the temperature, is the garage door open, basic smart home stuff. So you can see my implementation here. Okay. And the data that I was actually interested in taking a look at was the soil moisture sensor data. Okay. So a little background on this. What I actually built previously was an Arduino plant waterer. And what this does is this is an Arduino hooked to a relay, hooked to water pumps, and hooked to capacitive soil moisture sensors. This measures the water level in my flats where I start my pepper seeds and my tomato seeds and my celery seeds. And so this computer DIY project that I made myself allows me to see if my plants need water, and if they do need water, trigger the water pump to water them. So it is a fully automated setup and has saved many of my seeds and many of my plants from going dry when I may have otherwise forgot. So this data is fed back into Home Assistant using MQTT, mosquito protocol. And this you can see here now that's just updated to 322, 315. And I wanted to be able to pull that data into a Plone site. So what I built was Volto Farm OS. Okay, and this you are going to see works the same way that the baseball application does. We have a block in here called plant waterer, okay, and then it calls to my Home Assistant and it renders the soil moisture sensor and the water pump sensor. Okay, so if we go back over here and we take a look at here, we can see on our Plone site we have the information that we are looking for there. Pretty cool. Okay, and you can see this is a block here, plant waterer block is added as plant waterer, and that renders the information here. Okay, so taking a look at this code, how I'm pulling this in is that any environment variable that you pass to Plone that has the Razzle prefix will be available for the front end browser to use. So a simple way to add that in is just to add these variables and make a connection with my access token by setting the headers here. And that's how that works. Now, the one thing I will tell you is that when you are using window environment variables, those variables are available to the client browser. So that means that anybody who has access to your client browser, any anonymous user, can also find those environment variables. So you want to be careful with how you use those, especially if you have something that is some data that you want to keep secure. Now, in a case where you have a read-only system or a Raspberry Pi that you can throw away tomorrow, you'll be fine. But there are other ways to access those environment variables and to hide them from the client browser. And that's what I'd like to show you in the third application here, Volto Farm OS. Okay. Volto Farm OS. So if you haven't used Farm OS before, Farm OS is a web-based application for farm management. This allows you to get better handle on your record keeping and your planning, and can be used for quite a many applications. I use it for my gardening and for just basic maintenance tasks around the property. But it has quite a cult following as one of the few open source applications that can kind of help out farmers. It is built in Drupal, and I've been using this software for several years now. I first started getting into the open source farming world when I had stumbled upon a website called Farm Hack back in the day. And I could see how overdue that industry was for an influx of open source developers, because a lot of the farmers are very used to building DIY applications around their farm to solve problems, and that mantra of open source seemed to fit very well. So I felt I could bring a lot of the open source experience that I had into the farming world. I've been part of the FarmOS developer team for a few years now. I'm not a PHP developer and stuff like that, but I'm very interested in how this application works and very much enjoy it. So, so please have a chance to check it out if you can, and I'll show you a little demo here of what my FarmOS looks like. You can see here that I have property mapped out. I have upcoming tasks listed here. I have late tasks. Okay, and as you can see, FarmOS is split into kind of two major things here, which are assets and logs. So logs are tied to assets. You can also have quantities, you can have projects, you can have various things that you can enable through FarmOS add-ons. But at a basic level, you can subdivide those assets and logs into different categories: animal, land, plant. For logs, you can have harvest logs, maintenance logs, seeding logs, and we'll take a look here at for example the equipment. I can come in here, I can put my antifreeze, I can put water buckets, I can put air conditioners, and then I can have logs attached to those that do various different things. So I also have plant logs in here of all the different things I'm planting in the garden, and also perennials and orchard. You can fit a lot of data in FarmOS. It's pretty impressive. So, so what I wanted to find out was this same view here that I can render in FarmOS, where I look at my harvest logs. Can I display that in a Plone site? I could build a basic table and enter it in by hand, but can Plone interact with this database and pull that data in automatically? So, so let's take a look at my website here, and we'll look at vegetables, and these are just the various vegetables that I grow in my garden every year. And we'll look at arugula. Okay, so you can see again we have a table here that is displaying data. These are all of my harvest dates for arugula for the past 8 years. Okay, and this would be the same data that if we came in here and we said show me all of the harvest logs of arugula, and there you go. There's the records that we're pulling in. Okay, so so yeah, I built displays for each one of these vegetables. We can look at radishes, same way. You can look at spinach the same way. But I was also interested in building full harvest calendars that would show vegetables, berries, flower, bloom, various things. So here are a little bit bigger harvest calendar that pulls in multiple assets, beets, radishes, spinach, turnips. It gives you a full calendar there for the spring. I also have a fall calendar as well, and we also had the berries and harvest calendar, which I'll show you here. Okay, there you go. And the same way with flower blooms. There you can see the irises blooming, the hostas blooming, the lilies blooming, various things. So this data was very important to me because I wanted to be able to show some of my research that I had done in the garden as far as crop rotation, different harvest dates, different seeding dates, some of the things that I've learned over the past several years. So And I also felt that it gave other people a good chance to see when I may have some extra tomatoes, when I may have some flowers that you would like to subdivide. This is a good service for my neighbors to kind of participate in some of my gardening activities. So yeah, let's take a look at how this code is built in. Now, I will say first, FarmOS did not have a cookie cutter implementation, so there was no Docker project. So this is a repository I built that jumpstarts FarmOS projects quickly. You can come in here and run the cookie cutter script, which will give you a repository which then you can use. And one of the applications that I'm using here is FarmOS.js. Okay, so FarmOS.js is a JavaScript library for working with FarmOS data structures and interacting with servers. And there's actually some pretty cool features built into FarmOS.js, such as concurrency and some things like that ended up becoming pretty important to me. So you can define some of your own endpoints if you want, but a lot of times if you find a library that has some of these pre-built for you, it can save you some time for sure. So Volto FarmOS is made up of the same blocks that we have here. And here I just have one block called plant logs. Okay. And like we saw before, it is going to call a URL here called logs. Now, logs exist outside of the Plone site itself, and I'll show you here how the object looks. Okay, and this is just a default thing that I had put in case the filters are not passed to it, but you can see it gives you an object here for cold frame daffodils. Okay, but the main difference that we're doing here in Volto FarmOS is that we're using the Express middleware. Okay, so what Express is it sits behind Volto, so it is the back end of the front end, not the true back end, but it allows it acts as a middleman. It allows each side to access similar data sets. So what I did here was I defined a route called /logs, okay, which then calls the logs middleware farm logs. Okay, and it's using a filter here of some sorts. And then we're accessing the whole data response from logs controller. And here you will see that we are making a farm log fetch. And then we are taking that response and mapping over it. And we're doing another farm log fetch. And what this actually does is the first time that that we are fetching the data for something like arugula, we are just looking at the logs. But there are also assets and locations attached to them. And you can see here with the FarmOS, there are various API places to call. So when you have something like a log harvest here, it has relationships to other URLs that has the location, the asset. So you do have to make multiple calls in here. And then we are taking that data. You can see that we are returning the log name, the asset name, and up to 5 different locations. And then we are taking that and we are sorting it based on a ascending or descending. And then we're resolving those values to the /logs. Okay, so what this enables us to do is that we can take something like this, which is our auth controller, and we can call process env here instead. So the middleware can read backend processes, server processes, and can then deploy it to the middleware where it can't be seen by the client browser. So that is the key part here. So let's take a look back here on the site, and I will show you the filters, and these are built into the sidebar JSX here. You can see this, and defined using the filter here. Okay, so here you can see we have a log type selector, a plant type selector, land type, start date, end date, and that's the same things that we were looking at right here. Okay, there's our different log types. We can select different log categories, and these can be defined through the FarmOS taxonomy. Plant types as well. You can see I have various plant types in here to choose from. And land types. You can also do status, pending or done. You can set a date, and you can set the sort order here. So I'll actually show you here this change live. If we switch this to pending, aha, now we just see the pending. If we switch to no value, we can see all, or if we want to just see the done, then we just see the done. So you can see this data is changing in real time, and that is using the use effect and use state that we looked at before. So yeah, pretty cool. Super excited about the Volto FarmOS application. It does a lot of things that I was hoping that it could do, so I would encourage you to check it out. Some of the things that I had to deal with as I was going through this was navigating those relationship links, also pagination. The normal output from the JSON API is 50 entries. So if you need to get to entry 51, you have to navigate that pagination somehow. And concurrent requests. So as you can see, we were making at least 2 farm log calls here and farm log calls here. We're also making, with the choices controller, making a farm remote request here and a farm remote request here. And when I first programmed it, to do those requests sequentially took a little bit of time. I would load my page, I would wait 3 minutes, and then the data would eventually show up. But being able to do those connections simultaneously greatly speeds up the application. So if you're connecting to, example, a Postgres database, I would encourage you to check out PG Bouncer, which will allow you to do proxy pool connections to your database. And actually the key part of that is that it does queuing. So even with one pool, I can reuse that same connection over and over again when the transaction ends. But overall, it was a pretty painless process to kind of set some of this up and learn how to do it. The nice thing about the middleware is that I can auth one time, and here I can use access tokens and refresh tokens. Sometimes you have a long-lived token, like you have in the Volto Home Assistant application. You just have one long-lived token. But in an application like this, you have refresh tokens, so that can handle that as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you liked some of what I've shown you here today. But yeah, for me, Volto has become a really invaluable tool to make some of this stuff happen. And with little to no Plone knowledge, you can kind of jump right in and do the same thing with your APIs at home. So yeah, thanks for listening to me today. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach me on Discord at Foston, or if you would like to just create an issue on one of the repositories, you can find me, Faustin, on GitHub. And I thank you today for taking time out of your busy schedule to learn a new skill. And like I said, check out some of those other talks because there's a lot of cool things happening today.